Top 10 quarterback ranking, something every NFL fan can agree on. There is a universal top 10 that everyone is just fine with. And it doesn't matter what your favorite quarterback is, people are going to rank fairly because that's just how the NFL fan base is. Absolutely, I am joking because the NFL fan base is just stupid sometimes. But I will be trying my best to rank the top 10 quarterbacks in my eyes from what I saw last year. This is going to be taking into account some of the previous years for some of the top 5 people. I will get into that later. But overall, it's what I think of the quarterbacks right now, who I would like to lead my franchise, and who I think I could win with the most. So, let's start off with some honorable mentions. Number 1 is Geno Smith. Geno Smith last year had a fantastic year. He's taking the Seahawks to a playoff berth, going 9-8, I believe, and overall just having a great year, over 30 touchdown passes. And he was one of the best deep ball throwers and big game moment players in the league. He made so many amazing passes. I think he led the league in big time throws. And that's why he deserves a first honorable mention. He started off as a draft bust. I mean, if you can call a second round pick a draft bust. But he's just turned out to be great. He's had a late career renaissance for some reason. I don't think we've seen this in a lot of quarterbacks. But yeah, Geno Smith, the first honorable mention. Honorable mention number 2, Dak Prescott. Now, I know a lot of you Cowboys fans are throwing your keyboards at the monitors, but Dak Prescott last year just was not great. I believe he threw 22 touchdowns to 14 picks, and obviously not everything is to do with stats, but he could not get them over the hump. He is choked every year in the playoffs while having a stacked team. Last year had one of the best playoff performances we've ever seen by him. No, scratch that. Probably the best performance he's had in his career against Tom Brady and the Bucs. Then he goes in and gets destroyed by the 49ers. Terrible end to the Cowboys season like usual, and that's why Dak Prescott is not a top 10 quarterback for me. Otherwise, if this was last year, he'd probably be in my top 10. Great. He's a good quarterback, good signal caller, but he's just not going to make the cut. Next up, Deshaun Watson. No matter how I feel about him as a person, he does have ability. He threw 35 touchdowns to 7 picks with the Texans. They did go 4-12, but he still threw for almost 5,000 yards, or he did throw for 5,000 yards. He led the league in passing yards that year, was fantastic individually, then got traded with a fully guaranteed contract to the Browns. The Browns now are dealing with Deshaun Watson getting back into the swing of things, and he did not have a great year last year. But are we going to expect him to come back to form? I don't know if he is, but I'm at least going to have to put him in honorable mention due to what we saw from him earlier in his career. He was top 5 quarterback, borderline top 3. He was fantastic that year. And as for the last honorable mention, we will be putting in Jared Goofball. Jared Goff is a good starting quarterback. We've seen a lot where coaches carry him through, like with Sean McVay. We heard stories where Sean McVay would read the defense for him and tell him exactly what the formation was. And a lot of people just thought Jared Goff was a system quarterback. Now he goes to Detroit Lions. They do have a decent amount of weapons and a fantastic offensive line. But Jared Goff individually was great last year. Made the Pro Bowl, had a good year, almost led the Lions to the playoffs. I think he will lead the Lions to the playoffs next year, and that's why he deserves to be an honorable mention. Starting off with number 10, we are going to get controversial. Tua Tagovailoa. And a lot of people think Tua's just garbage and is only a product of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And I don't believe that. I think Tua throws with anticipation better than any quarterback in the league. And even though he doesn't have the best arm strength, he makes up for it by throwing so deep downfield and having the best deep threat weapons in the league. Probably the 2 fastest players in the NFL. Tua comes in at 10. And despite his arm strength, he was one of the best deep ball throwers last year. I believe he ranked number 1 in passes 20 or yards more downfield. He led the league in passer rating, and he did this with missing a ton of games compared to everyone else. He is an accurate thrower of the football. I would love Tua as my starting quarterback. Moving on to number 9, Kirk Cousins. He basically does what Geno Smith did last year, maybe a little less ability than Geno last year because he was fantastic. Kirk Cousins just puts up these amazing stat lines every year, but unfortunately it has not led to playoff success. He's only had 1 playoff win, and they had another disappointing loss. That was in spite of Kirk Cousins actually playing a good game. The only thing people get on Kirk about for that game was that late game check down where he should have probably thrown it more downfield. I mean, you were not getting that 4th down conversion with that. But Kirk Cousins, number 9 quarterback, very accurate thrower of the football. He's a good system quarterback. He's sort of like Alex Smith was back in the day, my favorite quarterback of all time. But yeah, let's move to number 7. Trevor Lawrence, the guy with all the potential in the world. Huge, 6'6", towering, fast, huge arm, accurate. He can make any throw. 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, or 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions last year. Over 4,000 yards. Great year. And he already won a playoff game. 27-point comeback against the Chargers. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a superstar in this league. He could be in MVP talks next year if the Jags perform well, which they finally have expectations, and Trevor Lawrence is not expected to be dog shit, because halfway through last year, he was not playing well. Then he flipped a switch and suddenly was a god tier quarterback. So Trevor Lawrence comes in at number 8. I do think he can move up to maybe a top 5 quarterback by the end of next year. Number 7, and this one could be even more controversial. People love this guy, Justin Herbert. Again, prototypical arm, that probably the second best arm in the league, one of the best arms in NFL history, Justin Herbert. 6'6", he's a little stockier than Trevor Lawrence. He's not as fast as Trevor Lawrence, but he can make any throw. And this guy is a check down merchant for some reason. And obviously, I know a lot of that was because of Joe Lombardi, but now he has no excuses next year. If he doesn't win a playoff game, he cannot be a top 5 quarterback. I don't care. 7 is about right for him, in my opinion, because people above him have accomplished more. People above him have won more. And Justin Herbert, best thing he's produced is a 10-7 record and a 27-point playoff choke. I get that his defense let him down, but you cannot choke like that. 4 interceptions, he did not capitalize on any drive, and that's the reason they lost the game. Justin Herbert is my number 7 ranked quarterback. Number 6 is a guy I love, Lamar Jackson, one of the most exciting players in the league to watch, and I know he had a bit of a down year last year. I mean, ever since the MVP season, he's not reached those heights just because of injury. The team hasn't been as good. His receiving weapons are just terrible every year. But now with the addition of Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers, I think Lamar could maybe have the best year of his career since the MVP season. He's probably going to get around 1,000 rushing yards, 3,000 yards passing. And Lamar, the big question about him is just winning a playoff game. I mean, he's already won one, but getting further in the playoffs is what's going to push him up a peg. And I have him above Justin Herbert because he's won a playoff game. He's had sustained success. One of the winningest quarterbacks in the league. And his ability is just absurd. It's so hard to stop him. Just so fast. Maybe the fastest player on the field. And the thing I don't like about Lamar, he starts off the season fantastic. Best quarterback, MVP. And then falls off about halfway through. So I'm hoping Lamar just stays healthy and has a good season. And doesn't have any dookie breaks like usual. Number 5 ranked quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, and I wanted to push him down because of last year, but it's Aaron Rodgers. Last year, I do think he was a bit distracted per se. Aaron Rodgers will not play like that again. He has a way better environment, way better team. He's best friends with Sauce Gardner, maybe the second best corner in the league. I just do not see him having another down year. I see the Jets being pretty good next year, at least an 11-win team. And yeah, Aaron Rodgers is my number 5 ranked quarterback, even though he hasn't had any playoff success for the past decade. Number 4 is a guy who went to the Super Bowl last year. Jalen Hurts is my number 4 ranked quarterback. Jalen Hurts, just the dual threat ability. He was fantastic in the Super Bowl. But Jalen Hurts, I mean, fantastic Super Bowl game. I think he had 3 or 4 total touchdowns. He just dogged on the Chiefs defense. His defense could not get a second half stop. And that's what cost them the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts was not the reason to blame. But he was MVP candidate before getting hurt last season. And I think Jalen Hurts is just going to have just as great of a year. Number 3 is Josh Allen, the strongest arm in the NFL. The only thing holding him back is his lack of playoff success. And I know I put him above Jalen Hurts, but Josh Allen has just had sustained success. 3 years of excellence, 3 years of MVP candidacy. And last year, he just throws too many picks. I think he had 38 touchdowns to 15 interceptions off the top of my head. But with Stephon Diggs' addition, he's just been fantastic. But Josh Allen is my number 3 ranked quarterback. I cannot put him above Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes, which are my obvious number 2 and 1. But Joe Burrow has been to a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes has been to 3 Super Bowls. They've had playoff success. Josh Allen has not had that playoff success. He went to an AFC championship game, but lost. And he needs to make the Super Bowl. He needs to get further in the playoffs before I rank him 2 or 1. And Joe Burrow, he has absolute stat volume. I mean, over 30 touchdowns, a bunch of passing yards. He was in MVP candidacy last year as well. Joe Burrow, playoff success, AFC championship 2 years in a row against the Chiefs. This time he came up short, But Joe Burrow's still a fantastic quarterback. He's been to a Super Bowl. The only thing I don't like about Joe Burrow is this narrative that he's so good in the playoffs. He has not played good, especially in clutch situations. And the Rams probably would have lost the Super Bowl if he just would have hit the throw downfield to Jamar Chase when he burned Jalen Ramsey. And yeah, that's why Joe Burrow's my number 2. He has not won a Super Bowl yet, not won an MVP. Unlike number 1, which is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's in his own tier. He is the best quarterback in the league. 2-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time MVP, 3 times going to the Super Bowl, 2-1 record. Been to the AFC Championship, I believe, 5 times now, 5 times in a row. And yeah, I mean, what more can you say about him? He's just the best quarterback in the league, very easily. And that does it for my quarterback rankings. Let me know where I'm wrong. I know the NFL fan base is not going to agree with this at all, especially Tua at number 10. That's such an unpopular take. And even Kirk above Geno Smith. Such an unpopular take, but I love sustained success. I just believe in those guys. And even though they haven't had their playoff success and Tua's been injured, I'll just take them over these guys who haven't had playoff success as well. And that's my top 10 list. Let me know what you think. Later.